Okay, we're live.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September meeting for the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board of Directors. Just a few reminders as usual. Emily Chandler is our host today, so if you have any problems at all, try to contact Emily through the chat feature and she can help you out. Again, a quick reminder to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Have your participant and chat windows open and try to use your raise hand feature. Otherwise, just call out. We'll try to make sure we recognize everyone. Of course, we have predetermined movers and seconders for all of the motions. And just another reminder that today's meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Upper Thames River's YouTube channel. And that is part of our requirement to allow public viewing of the proceedings. We do have regrets today from Sandy and Tony. And with that, I will ask Michelle to do the roll call for attendance, please.
Marie Blosh,
Here.
Anna Hopkins,
Here.
Margaret Lupton,
Here.
Nancy Manning. Is Nancy here? I don't see her.
She's listed as Taylor. She's muted.
Here. Yeah.
There we go.
I see you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Stacey. Okay, so Nancy Manning. I was Nancy.
Yes.
Hugh McDermott.
Yes.
Yes. Paul Mitchell.
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray.
Yes.
Brian Petrie.
Yes.
Jim Reffel.
Here.
Joe Salter.
Here.
Mark Schadenberg.
Here.
Alex Westman. I don't see Alex. Okay.
Okay.
And Alan Dale.
Present, yes. Okay, thanks, Michelle. We'll begin with our territorial acknowledgement. We'll begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Lunapiaq peoples who have a long-standing relationship to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities in this area include Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation at Moravian Town. In the region, there are 11 First Nation communities and a growing Indigenous urban population. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island. The second item on our agenda for today is modifications to the agenda. I have one small thing to report here. Item 7.3 is actually the September FYI. It says August, but it's actually the September FYI. Does anyone else have any modifications to the agenda for today? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so how about declarations of pecuniary interest? Anything at all there from board members? If not, there are no presentations or delegations for today's meeting. Item number 5 is administrative business, and 5.1 is the minutes for approval, and that's for our last meeting, August 23rd, 2022. And if I could get Margaret to move that, please, and Nancy to second it.
So moved. So seconded.
Okay, thank you. So that's the minutes from the last meeting, August 23rd. That includes the closed session minutes as well. Anyone have any comments or questions, any errors or omissions on those minutes? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so if not, I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. I don't believe there's any business arising from the minutes. So that will take us down to item 5.3, correspondence. And there is correspondence there to receive for information, and that's from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. If I could get Hugh to move that, please, and Paul to second it.
So moved. And so seconded.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions at all on this correspondence?
I see Anna has her hand raised.
Oh, Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Does anything change with the designation going to another ministry?
Well, I guess it just changes back to the way it used to be. There'll be some change in personnel that we'll be dealing with, but Tracy, you can answer this better.
Yes, no, I think that sums it up quite well, Alan. We're not anticipating any changes at this time. The one question we've had is about staff and staff contacts. Like the email had provided, there is a transition period that both MECP and MNR staff will be sharing. Any communications, the ca.office at ontario.ca email address is the main connection. There'll be staff from both ministries kind of overseeing that, and certainly some of our contacts that we've had at MECP have continued to provide correspondence and responses to questions so far. So as we know more, and as maybe some new faces perhaps, or maybe just shifting positions into MNR roles from MECP roles are expected. So we'll keep you updated as we know more, but again, this is back to the norm, back to what we had before. And similarly, MECP will remain the oversight ministry for drinking water source protection matters, but everything else is MNRF.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mark, you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I guess through to Tracy again, but all the talk we've had about core responsibilities of conservation authorities in the last couple of years, and I'm just kind of curious as to, did you know this was happening, or is it something that kind of surprised you? Because it would seem that they did a lot of debate, and then all of a sudden they changed the ministry.
Through the chair to Mark, no, we had no idea this was happening. As you know, we have a few staff with relations at MECP, and it was through staff announcements to MECP that we were first hearing about the change in oversight before it had been announced more broadly. So yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise, but in the end, is it appropriate? I think so. Again, we're dealing so much with natural hazards. That core responsibility is about natural hazards in our hazard program. And all of that is the responsibility of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. So it makes sense. We just went through a little bit of a turbulent time in the middle to get back to where we were, I guess.
Okay, any follow-up there, Mark, or? No, okay. Anyone else? Any other comments or questions? I don't see or hear anything, so we've got the motion on the floor to receive for information, and if there's nothing else, I'll call for the vote. So, Michelle?
Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Next, we have reports for consideration. And the first one is 6.1. And this is the 2023 draft budget concepts memo. If I could get Anna Marie to move this, please, and Brian to second it.
I so move.
Seconded.
Thank you. So this will be our first step as we start again with a new budget process. Of course, staff have been working hard to start pulling preliminary numbers together, but this is the first step with the board. So we need to deal with some concepts today and give direction to staff. They'll be preparing a draft budget, and that'll be coming back to us, I think, at the November meeting. And then, of course, there's a lot here to do this year with all the changes that have occurred. And of course, it'll be a lot of changes to the board as well. So it's going to be the current board that's going to start the process and guide staff through that. And then it'll be the incoming board that will finally approve the budget when we get to the AGM in February. So Tracy, I'll turn it over to you first for some comments.
Thank you. And through the chair, just to give a little bit more background, as you know, we typically have discussions with our surrounding CAs and municipalities early on, and all are treating this year kind of as a status quo or maintenance budget. We all have the same stresses when it comes to the rising costs of insurance, as well as the high inflation that we're experiencing. So everyone typically has maybe a little bit different determination on how they establish their cost of living increases, but all are going up because of what we're experiencing much more broadly. As Alan suggested, this is certainly a transition year. We'll stress that. And as we had our budget discussions last year, the staff heard very loud and clearly from our board that, yeah, we want to maintain what we're doing. We don't want to see a lot of change. So let's try to do that through a maintenance level budget. That's our plan again this year. And making sure we're maintaining those service levels to our municipalities, recognizing that in 2024, we'll be through an entirely new budget process with service level agreements for our different categories of programs and services. So again, just wanted to stress that this budget certainly reflects it's a transition year, and any increases in costs that we are anticipating through some of the deliverables that we're required to do through regulation, our core-based watershed management strategy, our asset management plan for our structures, as well as some of our strategies for our lands and inventories. Our goal is to utilize other sources of either deferred revenue or reserves that are not specified or non-specified reserves. So with that, that's what we're looking for, some comments back from our board to make sure we're headed in the right direction so that we can go upon finalizing our budget for a draft to be presented in November.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And the recommendation is there on the screen with the three main recommendations. And so I'll open up for some discussion. And Brian, you're first. I think you're muted, Brian.
Yeah, and I pressed every button but the unmute button, so we're all good now. But yeah, I agree with the direction the budget's going, given what we're facing and the changes that the organization is facing over this year and the next. So I think it's fair to maintain the service level until we get those agreements in place to figure out where the member municipalities want the service levels to be with the new Conservation Act. I agree with inflationary increase, although I think it's fair and I think it can be debated as well. And then I think the targets, I think it's fair to put them on hold because again, they can be incorporated within the MOUs with the municipalities. And that'll be, we may even exceed those target levels depending on what the municipalities want to do. So I'm in favor with this direction, but I look forward to discussion from the board.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Next we have Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. I think this is a reasonable approach considering the financial situation of the economy and the changes within the Upper Thames with the restructuring that we're going to talk about later on in the meeting with potential board membership changes, and with the things that are going on outside the Upper Thames, I think this is a good approach. I do have a question though, that's something that jumped out at me, and that was the chart that's attached on the CVA. And I noticed that the municipal population numbers were very inaccurate. For example, they say there's 308,000 people in London, and the 21 census says there's 422,000. So it always worries me when I see data that's really wrong. Are we comfortable that the other numbers are accurate, or are we any concerned about those other numbers other than the population numbers? Not that the population numbers are an impact on the levy.
Okay, Tracy, I don't know if you or Christine can comment on that.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll let Christine jump in, but certainly these are the spreadsheet that we're given from the province. This is circulated to us by MNRF in September, late August, beginning of September, I think it was this year. And that is what we are to apply our levy apportionment to. Christine, you might have a little bit more background on how those numbers are gathered in order to provide from MNR.
I'm not aware of where they pick up their population figures from, because the CVA is generally based on area within the watershed. I'm not even sure why they're producing population figures on this report. But we can certainly go back and ask that question. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
I do believe the reason why, sorry for jumping in there, but population numbers are really more to reflect membership representation for those CAs that follow the representation by population as prescribed under the Act. But again, I wonder how frequently those are reviewed and updated. It's a good question.
Any follow-up there, Paul?
No, just thanks for the answers. But like I say, it's not that they're 2016 numbers. Like those are last century numbers that they've got in there as far as population. And I know they're fairly irrelevant to what the levy is going to end up. But like I say, when I see numbers that are that far out of whack, it makes me question what the other numbers that are attached to them, how accurate they are. So thanks for the responses.
Okay, we'll see what we can find out there. Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, thanks, Paul. That was the exact question I was going to ask about the population. And I know it most likely won't affect our draft budget as we go forward. But when I see incorrect information, and I'll just speak to the City of London, 2016 census, we just changed our signs. We're at 423,000. It's not as if we're slightly off these numbers, but just speaking to what's happening in London, these are way off, and it just doesn't seem right. And I would definitely encourage staff to look into maybe getting the updates or reasons why we're working with years old numbers here. I just want to sort of make the general comments. I agree with Paul and Brian. I think this is a reasonable approach. I think there's so much uncertainty going on at the moment, and I see this as being reasonable and cautious as well, taking into account there's going to be a lot more changes that we're also looking at, but I am supportive of the recommendation in front of it. It is very hard to ignore. I know when I'm on council, and from a municipality's perspective and other committees that I sit on, we have rising costs everywhere and inflation, and it's very hard not to ignore those increases. So really, overall, generally supportive of the recommendation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Anna. Joe, you're next.
Yes, I again, I agree with the recommendations, and back to the chart. I haven't seen Stratford population like that for 50 years. So it's not just dated, it's really dated. And I had a question on the chart too about upper tier.
Yep, go ahead.
Do the standalone municipalities realize that their counties are upper tiers? So it has basically City of London with the upper tier is Middlesex County.
I'm not sure why they've got it listed that way.
The same with
It's located within the county, but certainly the city is separated from the county system. So
and St. Mary's and Stratford.
yes, yeah. So obviously, there's more than one inaccuracy with this chart that's been provided by the province. Hopefully,
That's my only comments.
okay, thank you. Hopefully, I say we can also, when Christine is inquiring about this, she can point that out as well. So, Paul, go back to you.
Just to respond to Joe, yeah, definitely in Oxford County, the county's upper tier and the rest of us are lower tier, but Perth County and London, Middlesex, that's a whole different ballgame. So there, once again, when you're getting information from the province and it's grossly inaccurate, makes you wonder how in tune they are with what's going on the ground.
Yep. Okay. Other comments or questions?
I see Hugh has his hand raised.
Oh, Hugh, go ahead.
Just wondered on page 9, they talk about impact being updated in 2023. Do they know if that's like not just the building you did in 2022, but is that like where their 4-year cycle that they're actually going to finally bring that up to date?
I'll maybe direct that one to Christine. What page was that on again, Hugh?
Page 9.
Page 9, okay.
There was a sentence, something about impact and that at 2023 things would be updated. And I just wondered if somebody knew if they were going back to their 4-year cycle of updates.
That's what it's under the CVA portion, and from what we understood, that was the province's intent to get back to that 4-year cycle.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I guess I'll expand upon that is we had some discussions at our Southwestern GM's meeting, and that topic was brought up at that point. But that was what was expected. Again, a little bit beyond our control, but we're hoping to see a little bit more regular updates for accuracy.
Okay, nope, thanks. That's just the township and county of been wondering when they were going to get that stuff back updated and everything running like it's supposed to. They're about 3 years behind now, so I don't know how they're going to ever get it back to normal. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, quite right. I know there was some changes and updates for 2023, but yes, you're quite right. There's been they've deferred things for a number of years and it's gotten quite behind schedule. So, okay, other comments or questions? I don't see anyone else. I'd just like to take a moment to make a few comments of my own. I'd like to thank staff for putting this together. It's you know, when we look back over the 4 years that this board has been in place, we started in the midst of the environmental targets, and we had some really high expectations, and we haven't been able to realize all of that. And given what we've been through the last few years with some changes to our operations and our funding model, and of course now what we find with inflation and the effect that's having on our economy, I commend staff for bringing in this budget and this idea that we delay the final environmental target amount. But I'm glad it's still there. I don't want us or the incoming board to forget about it. And hopefully there'll be an opportunity to deal with it next year in 2024, next year's budget preparations. And as Brian mentioned, that could be possibly quite easily handled through agreements with our member municipalities. So again, just overall, given the circumstances we're in, I think it's very good and the best that a reasonable approach. And I'd like to thank staff for putting that all together. If there's no other comments or questions then on the motion, again, just for everyone's information, the motion is that recommendation that the Board of Directors approves the following recommendations as guidance for staff development of the 2023 draft budget. That the 2023 draft budget reflects a maintenance level of service delivery, except where funding is received from sources other than levy. That an inflationary increase of 5% on most costs be included. And that the final $172,500 of municipal levy request in support of the environmental target strategic plan be deferred until 2024. And I don't see else's hands or comments. So with that, I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much, folks. And that moves us down to item 6.2. And this is the Strathroy Caradoc boundary adjustment enlargement. And if I could get Jim to move that, please, and Joe to second it, that we approve the recommendation as presented in the report.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. This is an ongoing issue that's been, I guess, has been sitting there for many years, and there's sort of been a de facto working arrangement, but it's come to the point now where it's better if it's finalized and made official. And so there has been a series of meetings and negotiations going on with the member municipalities and the CAs involved, and this just keeps moving the process along, and it's good to see. So Tracy, I'll turn over to you for some comments.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to add that, yes, this has been a little bit of a long going process, and with the changes to the Act almost entirely in place, there's only Section 28 that's yet to be proclaimed, that it would really help the municipality to have this, I would say, a historical cleanup of this issue. They recognize and really appreciate our regulatory role and want that to be formalized within this area of the watershed. We've called it a boundary adjustment in the past. The way we treat boundary adjustments through the legislation in the Act is through enlargements. So that term has been added. But really, this is a cleanup to identify a historical mapping error and the unique circumstance in our order in council where Strathroy Caradoc was specifically excluded. So with that, we have been meeting with the municipality. They know that there is tremendous growth within this area of their municipality, probably coming in the near future, just with so much pressure on this area of the province for development. And really would like to get this matter cleaned up so the roles and responsibility are clear. So with that, the report's before you with the recommendation. And we're happy to hear any discussion or questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Brian, you're first.
Yes, certainly in agreement with this. Reading all the information, it is really just a cleanup of a situation that's already at hand and allow Section 28 to be done much more clear, so things aren't missed. As far as representation on the board, I am in favor of the shared model. Obviously, this is a very small portion of Strathroy Cardoc's area, so when you look at the numbers, I think that would be be fair, and probably the most easily workable for the municipalities as well. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so anything that we can do to provide clarity, I think, is something good, and this will certainly do that for staff and those living in the area and have to work and deal with the conservation areas in that little area.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Mark, you're next.
Sure, Alan. I guess I have a couple of questions. First of all, if this is an increase in membership of the board, and I know one time there was discussion about also having an agricultural rep to kind of be board wide. I'm not sure if that is advanced. And so I guess that's my first question. If this agricultural person is still on board for additional, and would that be therefore 17 members on the board?
I haven't heard anything lately, but Tracy, have you heard any updates on that?
Yeah, through the chair, great question. As far as the agricultural reps, there's been 5 that were appointed just prior to the election to a few of the RCAs, more in the north actually, but St. Clair received an agricultural representative appointed to their board. And through discussions with any other GMs, no one's aware of that progressing at this time. But again, when it came to the appointments of those other representatives, I believe it was Bordeaux Valley found out at an event that they were having where the ag rep was announced during the event, and she had no prior knowledge of one being appointed. So we're not hearing a lot when those appointments are being made. And as Brian suggested, and as was suggested through the report, given the population numbers, we think that a shared representation between Middlesex Centre and Strathroy-Caradoc may be more appropriate. Again, then that would leave our representative numbers the same for board membership.
Any follow-up there, Mark?
Yes, my follow-up, Alan, this time is in our previous question on the agenda. We talked about populations and whatnot. Strathroy and Mount Bridges are certainly growing municipalities, and I'm sure between Strathroy and Caradoc, what population is going to be assessed to them for their percentages? Can I suggest 40 or 50,000? Trying to be light on it, but still.
Through the chair, when it comes to representation by population, it's the percentage of that population within the jurisdiction. So if you look back at that last report too, there's the general population number in the CVA values, but then the percentage within the area. And it's a calculation that the ministry does based on a GIS exercise. So with that, we've never had clear population numbers within our area in the past. And I'll say there's been a long-standing error as well, where any population amounts have been attributed to the St. Clair's watershed. So we'll have to get that parsed out to determine what amount truly is reflective, or at least an approximation about what is in that area that would be moving into the Upper Thames jurisdiction.
Just wanted to confirm though, those percentages, a total 100 in the last column, will change with the additional membership from Strathroy-Caradoc?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand this has been a long time coming. It's really good to see that both CAs and the municipality, everyone's in agreement. So very, supportive of that. I do have a couple questions about the financial impacts, the 10,000, and who's responsible for that or how that works. And I know this area, there's a lot of development going on, and if I read it correctly in the report, section 28, where we haven't made a decision on that yet, but how is that going to move forward, and when will they come online, or when will we have the member join the board? Do we have those timelines yet?
Tracy, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair. I don't have an exact timeline. There are steps under the Act that have to be completed in order for the membership, the meeting of the representation of all within those areas to participate in the meeting, and with resolutions at that meeting to form and join our jurisdiction and finalize that boundary adjustment. And then that's submitted to the province. There isn't really an approval process for the province. It's just the submission to the province. And when we come back to enforcing the regulations, as soon as they fall within our jurisdiction, the areas that we've mapped historically have been regulated areas. We've provided that for information to inform the building departments or chief building official in the area and commented on development applications so that they're aware that there's still responsibilities under the provincial policy statement for making sure development stays out of those hazard lands, and those hazard lands have been identified. So this is really just better reflecting our roles and responsibilities as a regulatory agency within that area. So as for specific timeline, I can't give you that, but I think we've got the steps in place to progress this and be ready for when it is formalized to be able to fully provide those services to Strathroy Caradoc in that regulatory capacity.
And the financial impacts through the chair, just who's responsible for that?
Yes, through the chair. Again, it'll come down to timing as well, when that can be formalized. The CVA numbers inform the levy amounts, and then what will fall into those Category 1 programs versus what's part of that agreement. The 10,000 was kind of an estimate based on historical numbers that St. Clair Region Conservation Authority had, but that will all have to be fully determined and fleshed out. So this is really the first step to make sure everyone's on board with moving forward with this jurisdictional change.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So we're not exactly there yet, and it's a little bit more complicated, and just the importance of making sure we've got correct numbers and how we determine that. Just thank you for the report, and we'll support the recommendation.
Great, thank you, Anna. Yeah, it's actually quite a process by the sounds of it. So, Nancy, you're next.
Back probably in 2016, I did have a discussion, I know, with Ian at the time about this change coming into effect, and that there would probably be that amalgamation of a board representative between the Strathroy Caradoc and Middlesex Centre. So, you know, and then it sort of went away, and so it's sort of nice to see it back again. I know that Middlesex Centre does has representation on 5 different conservation authorities. So, you know, the amalgamation certainly wouldn't be an issue, I don't think, and I certainly support the recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Any other comments or questions? I don't see any. And we do have a motion on the floor for this to approve the recommendation, and that is that the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board of Directors approves the proposed boundary adjustment between the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority and the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc. It's recognized that this adjustment will result in the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc becoming a participating member of the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority with representation on the Board of Directors. And with that, I'm going to call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, so that motion's carried. The next item we have is 6.3, and that is the quarterly progress report. And this is report number 2. It'll be the second one we'll be sending to the province, and the inventory of programs and services. And so there's a motion there to approve the recommendation as presented in the report. If I could get Marie to move that, please, and Anna to second it.
Yes, I will move that.
And I will second.
Good, thank you. And again, this is part of this process where we are providing updates and progress on our inventory of programs and services, and this will be the number 2. And Tracy, anything else you want to add?
Sure, through the chair, I'll just add that, since our last update to the board and the last report to the province, significant effort has been made by the managers and certainly Christine, give her huge kudos for corralling everyone to ensure that our software that we are transitioning to, Questica, can more accurately reflect these new programs and services and these categories of programs and services to ensure that our coding can be aligned and future reporting aligns with these efforts. So I just really wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that, it might not look like a whole lot of change on paper, but in the background, there's been significant work to get things transitioned over to the new software that we're getting training on later this week, and making sure that things are set up in the future for these types of reports. Also in the report, I mentioned that we had a meeting scheduled with the City of London regarding the development services or planning memorandum of understanding. That happened just last week. I think we've got things in a pretty good state. There's a couple things that we just want clarification on, and of course, that type of agreement will be going through our solicitors as well. So it's nice to see that progressing at this time too. And the other highlight that, as we've discussed at our Southwest General Managers meeting, is just to make the province aware that with the election process and sometimes some transition period, new councils, both at the municipalities and through our boards, the next reporting might be a little bit more challenging to progress any agreements at that time. We have this period of lame duck councils, so not a lot of decision making happening at this time, and anticipate that there'll be a training period in a portion of the next reporting period to the province. So just highlighting that, but we all have our timelines often in place and forget about kind of what's happening on the ground sometimes that may impede those timelines. So with that, certainly looking to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Any questions or comments at all from the board members? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. So if there's no comments or questions and everyone's satisfied, then I will call for the vote. And Michelle, can you do the roll, please?
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Ruffle,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schattenberg,
Yes.
Alan Dale.
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Next item we have is 7, the reports for information. And the first one there is 7.1. This is the administration enforcement. It's our section 28 status report. If I could get Mark to move that, please, and Hugh to second it.
I'll move it, sure.
So second.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to point out that we had a request before. I think it was from Jim, if I remember correctly. And we talked about how many permits were in the process and how much there was to do. So it's, I'm just noting here that last year we did 153 permits. And this year, as of August 31st, we were already up to 142. So staff have been quite busy. So thanks to them for all that hard work, and obviously lots going on there. And yeah, I don't remember, maybe it was Jim or Joe, one of them I think asked about this, and it's good to, gives us a better understanding of just how much of a workload there is there for staff if we see the number of applications that have been dealt with and the ones that are still in the queue. So we do have Jenna available to answer any questions. So any questions or comments at all on the section 28? Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your comments too. I just wanted to follow up. My thanks. Staff were listening to us, and I really do appreciate it. This added information in the report. I think it gives some clarity and more understanding what staff have to go to. And just as a counselor, when I get approached, when permits may not be, that may be delayed, this is a good reminder what staff are doing, but also the reminder that these applications that are submitted have to, it's got nothing to do with the pre-consultation process and the documents that are needed to start the application. This is all about once the application is already. I think that's really important because I know there's a long period there before this, but really appreciate the extra information. Many thanks to staff.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so if there's nothing else for that motion. Okay, so we've got the motion on the floor to receive for information. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Mary Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schadenberg,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. That's carried. Thank you. Next item we have is 7.2, and that's the organization modernization overview. And if I could get Anna Marie to move this, please, and Margaret to second it.
I so move. I second.
Thank you. And the motion is that the Board of Directors receive the report for information. And I'd like to thank staff. I know a number of us have been anxious to see this. We know there's been lots of changes going on the last number of months. We've had a number of retirements, and we've been, dealing with some vacancies, and we've been trying to be very strategic about it as to, it's not just filling backfilling positions, but it's also a modernization and shifting things around and changing some responsibilities to better reflect the needs of the organization and what we're anticipating going forward because of the changes that we've incurred now under the CA Act. So it's quite a process, and I know I've been after Tracy for this, and she keeps saying, well, it's been a work in progress. And even since this report was prepared, there have been some changes. So it's nonetheless, it's a very good update and gives us a very good picture on what's going on in the organization. So thank you. And I know it was a real struggle to get this report pulled together. So thank you, Tracy, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Yeah, and I just want to provide a little bit more of the context too. Because when we, as managers, when we first started talking about what was needed to better align with the regulation, we worked on the first attachment, which I call it the strategic plan update, because really it's intended to capture everything from our targets and our regulatory responsibilities, ensuring that our program areas are best aligned to deliver on those new requirements under regulations, and then the activities and services that we provide in order to do that. And then to build on that, we recognize there's some things in the strategic plan that we could better align with our municipalities as they're challenged with climate change mitigation and adaptation. We have the City of London with their climate change action plan. Many other municipalities have been working on, or Oxford County has certainly had their climate change programs in place too. So how we can better assist our municipalities to deliver things that are the boots on the ground to establish that adaptation and resiliency that's needed throughout the watershed. So this became kind of our framework to work from as we move to replace and reconsider how we can better deliver our more broader strategic objectives. And as noted before, with significant staff retirements, it's allowed managers to think through and not just replace, past positions with the same position again, but how better to provide those services. And so that's been the change that you may have seen with some of the structural changes in the actual staff organizational chart. Getting down to those position descriptions, how they better align with those new regulatory requirements, our strategic objectives, and more forward thinking. As noted by Alan, even since the publication of this org chart, we have a few more names to add. This has been a bit of a month of hiring. Of course, it's been after the summer break, so many interviews have been going on as staff are back and people have more availability for interview schedules. So as I said, that's been a constant change, but certainly not as many vacancies that have been in place in the past, and a little bit better organization structure to, again, support our broader programs and services, recognizing we have much more responsibilities for reporting and transparency and management, ensuring those projects are completed in a timely basis, then also allowing more junior positions. And we have been seeing that through our organization. Many of the hires have been internal candidates that have learned on the job, have gained some great experience, and have been able to now have a position with a little bit more responsibility within our organization. So glad to see that happening. We've been very fortunate. We've got a great group of people who are very committed to our strategic directions and the environment and what we can do in this watershed. So happy to see that coming to fruition, and hope that this continues to be the norm and what we experience in our employees. So with that, I'll open the floor to any questions. I know Brian's had his hand up. So.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. And yes, Brian, go ahead.
Not so much a question. Sometimes, especially at the board level, I forget, you forget we were dealing with such high level items that you forget the people who make it happen. And this is a very good visual. The amount of people it takes to keep this organization going and meet its goals, it's a lot. And there's a lot of specialized people on there who are very dedicated. And this is a good visual reminder of that. And also a reminder that it takes a lot of dedication and planning, not only to make an org chart, but to run the organization and meet our goals, what we want Tracy to do. So good on you for being in charge of all these people, and congratulations to everybody to being able to work for, and now all the new people to be able to work for our organization. It means a lot because, again, at the board level, we make these big ideas, but it takes people to be able to do them. And so it's laid out there very nicely. And it's a good reminder to go back, even if it's not up to date, just to review of all the things that the different departments and the different goals, and just see that on paper, because it's a lot easier than I try to do it every year with the budget package that we get, but this is even better, I think, because it just lays out who's where, and it brings the people into it as well. So yeah, everybody has a role, and it takes a lot of people to keep the river flowing, I guess. So.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Paul, you're next.
Comment through you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank staff for including the organizational chart in the report. I'm a guy that likes maps and charts and diagrams. It helps me understand much more clearly what's being done here. And I got curious. I pulled out the organizational chart that I was given when I joined the board almost 4 years ago. And I got partway through, and there was 3 things that jumped out at me. One was the number of names that aren't there on the new chart, the people that have retired and moved on. The number of names of people that were on both charts, but now they're much higher up on the level than they were before, so they've advanced in their careers. And the other one Tracy referred to is the number of empty spots on the chart, and I'm glad to hear that those empty spots are being filled in as quickly as possible. So I look at it, the challenges that this term of this board that has had, and the staff at the Upper Thames, we've had the huge changes with the Conservation Act, the pandemic and all the challenges that went with that. And now we're looking at huge inflation and economic challenges. And then you combine that with a tremendous turnover of staff at all levels, right? Starting from the top down, all the way down, and trouble hiring people. It's kind of a perfect storm of challenges. So kudos to staff for working through this and coming up with some better ways of doing things rather than just filling those spaces, as Tracy said, that have always been there before. So just to comment on the reorganization and the challenges that were faced recently and in the future.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Any other comments or questions? I'm not seeing or hearing anything, so we do have the motion there that the board receive the report for information. And if there's nothing else, I will call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schattenberg,
Yes.
and Alex Westman. Oh, sorry, Alex isn't here. Alan Dale.
Yes. And that's carried. Thank you. Next item is 7.3. And that's the FYI report. And if I could get Nancy to move that, please, and Hugh to second it.
So moved.
Hugh, can you second that, please?
So second.
Okay, thank you. So this is FYI. We're going to receive this for information. Any comments or questions at all on the FYI report? I usually make a comment about these FYIs and how I like seeing the bird pictures on the front page, and this month will be no exception because I don't know much about birds, but I've learned about bobolinks, and if I'm not mistaken, that picture there is one of the ones that Steve took from my farm. So glad to see that. That was really good, and I'm really glad to the story that goes with it, and the fact that they are going to establish and maintain and monitor 22.6 hectares of tall grass prairie habitat. So good news. Any other questions or comments at all on the FYI report? Mark, go ahead.
Just wanted to maybe add an addition to that. I know on Saturday, October 15th is when Hodges Pond, which is also, of course, in Mr. Dale's backyard, has its sort of open house and day showing off the new trails and whatnot. And I know there's been a series of different events going on this fall already from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, but October 15th would be a good day to make the trek down the Old Stage Road just south of Woodstock to see all the changes and transformations that have been done there, thanks to the UTRCA and other groups.
Yes, thank you, Mark. I'm certainly hoping to be there, and hopefully all the board members can join too in some of these events. So it's looking forward to that. Other comments or questions all on the FYI report? Okay, I don't see or hear anything. So we're receiving this report for information, and I'll call for the vote. And Michelle, if you could do the roll, please.
Marie Blosh,
Yes.
Anna Hopkins,
Yes.
Margaret Lupton,
Yes.
Nancy Manning,
Yes.
Hugh McDermott,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Anna Marie Murray,
Yes.
Brian Petrie,
Yes.
Jim Reffel,
Yes.
Joe Salter,
Yes.
Mark Schattenberg,
Yes.
and Alan Dale.
Yes. So that's carried. Thank you. How However, I was a little hasty there. I noticed I didn't get to Tracy on that one. Tracy, you had a
That's
comment.
okay. I was just excited in the FYI to see that the town of St. Mary's is back again, or has joined the Tree Power, and Perth South is back again for another Tree Power event. So like Mark said, there's lots of events going on in October that are keeping our staff busy on weekends, and handing out trees up in those areas is one of them. So I know Emily's smiling away there because she was a big hand in helping hand out trees at the Perth South event last year. And from what I understand, it was just a great day. Forrester came back saying he just couldn't get over what a great time that they had up in Perth South. So I wanted to mention that.
Good, thank you very much. And yeah, another great event, and glad to see the folks in St. Mary's and Perth South participating and picking up some trees. So good news. Okay, item number 8, notices of motion. Anyone have any notices of motion they wish to bring to the floor for a future meeting? Don't see or hear anything. So item number 9 is chair's comments. Just a few items there. Mark alluded a minute ago to the Connecting Communities events, and yeah, there's a whole schedule. There's a few more upcoming. There was one this past Saturday that was at Wildwood, and I'd like to thank Paul Mitchell, because Paul Mitchell represented the board at that event and brought greetings on behalf of the board and was there. And I understand it was a really good turnout and good day, and lots of staff were helping out, and lots of partner agencies were there as well. So thank you to Paul and all the staff who took part on Saturday at Wildwood. I was to take part in the event on Sunday at Dorchester, and unfortunately we had to cancel that event because of the inclement weather. So we're going to keep you posted. I don't think they've had a chance to reschedule that yet, but we'll let folks know when we get that one sort of planned for another date. And there are a few other events coming up, as Mark alluded to, and yeah, keep an eye out for those. And if you have an opportunity to join us, certainly great to see everyone at those events. Also wanted to mention briefly that Tracy and I took part yesterday in a Conservation Ontario. It was just a regularly quarterly meeting of the council, and things are progressing nicely. Angela Coleman has just started as the new general manager for Conservation Ontario, but she's hit the ground running and got through the first meeting, and there's lots underway for next year. And we likewise are looking at a very much a maintenance budget for 2023. There's Upper Thames, our levy is actually slated to decrease slightly, just based on the way the percentages and the way it's apportioned to all the CAs, but very much a maintenance budget. But it's going to be a challenging year going forward for all the CAs in Conservation Ontario. So yeah, it was a good meeting, and looking forward to a challenging year ahead with Conservation Ontario. I just wanted to give a reminder as well that our next meeting is October the 26th, and that is a Wednesday, because October the 24th is Election Day. So a number of board members will be involved over the coming weeks, and I expect there'll be a lot of people that might want to sleep in a little bit on October the 25th. So we will be meeting on a Wednesday, October 26th, and that will be at 9:30 in the morning as usual. So that's all I have today for chair's comments. Do any members have any comments that they wish to share? Brian, go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, nothing too big, except that I hear it's Mark Schadenberg's wedding anniversary today, and he's here with us. So I want to congratulate him on that. And I hope he goes and spends the rest of his day with someone way more important than us. Congratulations, Mark.
That's great. Thank you. Yes, congratulations, Mark. And I was going to ask at the end of the meeting about Margaret, because Margaret, it's good to see you at the meeting, because I know last meeting you were certainly recovering from some surgery. So hope you're progressing nicely, and good to see you today.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we go to Marie.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I should have spoken up during the Section 28 matter discussion, but better late than never, I suppose. And I just wanted to say that I noticed on the Section 28 applications that 2 of them are for wetland creations. And it was a really nice thing to see and a nice change of pace from the usual developments. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, yeah, it is good. And yeah, those are, even though we may not think of them as development, they are development in the wetlands. They have to get a permit, but it's nice to see that type of development. Absolutely. Paul, you're next.
Yeah, Alan, you alluded to the election that's going to happen before our next meeting. So I just want to wish all the best to the board members that are up for election. Hugh and I are fortunate enough that we've been acclaimed. So if our councils choose, we will be back for another term. And I've enjoyed working with all the board, but the ones that are councillors who are running again, I hope that you win and that we get to work together again for another 4 years.
Very good. Thanks, Paul. Anyone else? Any other comments at all? I don't see or hear anything. So next we have item number 11, and that's general manager's comments. So Tracy, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to mention, because of elections, this question's come up quite a bit, is about if any of our member municipalities have sought the exception to the 70% rule, requiring that 70% of their participating representatives on our board be elected officials. And I have not heard of any of our municipalities doing that. The City of London just confirmed yesterday that they're awaiting to get council direction from the new council on how they wish to proceed. I have had some communication back and forth with the CA office. It was still MECP staff, just clarifying that now the requests are to be made to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, and those requests can be made through that CA office, ca.office at ontario.ca account. So it's certainly a time of transition and change. And some of our municipalities have confirmed that their intent is for appointing an elected official in the future. So yes, we do know that we're going to have some board members change over into our next board, but I too echo the comments that Paul have said. It's been great to get to know our members and our citizen appointments. I do hope that there's some of you that can continue, and that you're certainly willing to put your name forward to sit on this board in the future. With that, again, with all the activities planned in our nature connections activities on weekends throughout the fall and into the winter too, hoping that we can connect in those events and have an opportunity to say hello and catch up. Like I said, lots of different activities out there, and hopefully we can have some opportunities to touch base then.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. We have nothing today for closed session. So if there's nothing else, last item is a motion to adjourn. And if I could get Paul Mitchell to adjourn the meeting, please.
So moved.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your participation today, and enjoy the rest of your day. We've had a few days of rain, which has been much needed, but after that, we're going to get some sunshine and it's going to warm up a little bit. So take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Bye.
Thanks.
But